The snow fell silently around me as I dragged myself through the forest, each step more agonizing than the last. Another contraction ripped through my body, and I collapsed against a frost-covered pine, my fingers digging into its rough bark. The moon, full and unforgiving, illuminated the trail of blood I was leaving behind. My blood, my baby's future, the metallic scent of it mixed with the crisp winter air, a horrifying perfume that would surely attract predators before long. Just a little further, I whispered to my unborn child, though I had no destination in mind. The packlands were behind me now, a place I could never return to. Not after what Grayson had done. I had trusted him, loved him even, when he'd chosen me as his mate. The pack had whispered behind my back, of course. The alpha taking a human as his mate. Unheard of. Disgraceful. But I'd believed him when he said none of that mattered. My blonde hair had always fascinated him. He would run his fingers through it and call me his golden treasure. I was naive enough to think that meant something. Until today. Until he'd discovered the truth about my child. "It's not mine," he had snarled, his eyes flashing dangerously in the firelight of our cabin. "You've betrayed me." The pack council stood behind him, their faces masks of disgust and righteous anger. "The child is yours," I had pleaded, clutching my swollen belly. I've never been with anyone else, but the pack doctor had already whispered in his ear about the child's anomalies, about how my baby didn't carry the dominant genes of our alpha. My grandmother's silver locket hung heavy around my neck now as I pushed forward through the snow. It was the only thing I had left from my former life, before I'd met Grayson, before I'd learned that werewolves weren't just legends. The locket contained a pressed forget-me-not flower, my grandmother's reminder that true strength comes from remembering who you are, even when the world tries to make you forget. Another contraction, stronger this time. I fell to my knees, a sob escaping my throat. The expulsion decree had been immediate, and without mercy. Grayson had given me 1 hour to leave pack territory, despite my condition, despite the storm, despite the fact that no human woman could survive giving birth alone in these mountains in the dead of winter. That had been the point, of course. I managed to crawl beneath the low-hanging branches of a massive spruce, seeking whatever meager shelter it might provide. The snow had formed a sort of hollow beneath it, and I curled into the space, my body shaking uncontrollably from cold, fear, and pain. "I'm so sorry, little one," I whispered, tears freezing against my cheeks. "I wanted to give you everything." A howl pierced the night, distant but clear, then another, closer. My heart lurched in my chest. Grayson's pack, coming to ensure his decree was carried out? Or perhaps regular wolves, drawn by the scent of blood and vulnerability. Either way, I was as good as dead. The contractions were coming faster now, my body demanding I bring this child into the world even as that world was determined to reject us both. I bit down on the sleeve of my coat to muffle my screams, knowing that any sound would only hasten whatever was hunting me. Through the haze of pain, I became aware of movement in the trees. Shadows shifting, branches swaying against the wind. My instincts screamed danger, but I could do nothing but watch, paralyzed, as a massive form emerged from the darkness. Wolf, but not just any wolf. This one was enormous, its shoulders reaching higher than any natural wolf could stand. Its fur was midnight black, absorbing the moonlight rather than reflecting it, and its eyes, they glowed amber, intelligent and fierce, locked directly on me. I had seen Grayson in his wolf form before, majestic and silver gray. This creature was different, larger, wilder somehow, and it was stalking toward me with deliberate slowness. "Please," I whispered, though I knew a wild animal wouldn't understand. "My baby." The wolf paused, its head tilting slightly as if considering my words. Then something impossible happened. The air around it seemed to shimmer, the massive form contracting and shifting, until a man stood where the wolf had been. He was tall and powerfully built, with those same intense amber eyes that had watched me from the wolf's face. His skin was bronzed despite the winter season, and scars marked his bare chest and arms, the history of battles written on his flesh. He approached me slowly, as if I were a wounded animal that might bolt. The irony wasn't lost on me. "You're on Black Ridge territory," he said, his voice deep and rough, as if he didn't use it often. "Silver Creek Pack has no claim here." Another contraction seized me, and I couldn't respond, could only curl inward and try not to scream. When it passed, I gasped, "They don't want me. I'm banished." His expression darkened. "Banished? While carrying a child?" I nodded weakly, my vision beginning to blur at the edges. "The baby. They say it's not the alphas." "But it is?" "Yes," I whispered. "But it's different somehow. The pack doctor said." Another contraction cut me off, this one so intense that a scream tore from my throat despite my efforts to remain silent. The man moved with startling speed, kneeling beside me in the snow. His hand, unnaturally warm, pressed against my forehead. "You're freezing to death," he said matter-of-factly, "and the baby is coming now. You won't survive out here." "I know," I said, a strange calm settling over me as I accepted the inevitable. His next words shattered that calm. "I won't allow that." Before I could process what was happening, he had scooped me into his arms, as if I weighed nothing, cradling me against his bare chest. His skin burned like a furnace against mine, and I found myself instinctively pressing closer to that life-saving warmth. "My name is Dominic," he said, as he began to move through the forest with inhuman speed and grace, barely disturbing the snow beneath his feet. "I'm the alpha of the Black Ridge Pack, and as of this moment, you and your child are under my protection." The implications of his words were too enormous to comprehend through the fog of pain and cold. All I knew was that this stranger, this rival alpha, was carrying me away from certain death, and that for the first time since Grayson's betrayal, I felt a flicker of hope. That hope was short-lived, as the most powerful contraction yet ripped through me. "The baby," I gasped. "It's coming now." Dominic's pace increased, the forest blurring around us as he ran. I caught glimpses of other wolves keeping pace with us through the trees. Massive creatures like him, their eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Hold on," he commanded. "My pack healer is waiting." I wanted to tell him it was too late, that I could already feel my body surrendering to both the birth and the cold. But darkness was creeping in from all sides now, narrowing my vision to a pinpoint. The last thing I saw before consciousness fled was a cluster of lights ahead, buildings nestled among the trees, smoke rising from stone chimneys. Sanctuary. I awoke to warmth and the scent of cedar smoke. For one disorienting moment, I thought I was back in Grayson's cabin, that perhaps everything had been a terrible nightmare. Then the unfamiliar ceiling came into focus, wooden beams intricately carved with symbols I didn't recognize, and reality crashed back. The baby. Where was my baby? I tried to sit up, but my body refused to cooperate, weakness pinning me to what I now realized was an enormous bed piled high with furs. Panic bloomed in my chest. "Easy," came a woman's voice, gentle but firm. "You'll tear your stitches." I turned my head to see an elderly woman with silver-streaked dark hair watching me from a rocking chair near a roaring fireplace. She wore a simple woolen dress and had a kind face lined with a wisdom of many years. "My baby," I managed to croak, my throat painfully dry. The old woman smiled, rising from her chair with a grace that belied her age. "Your daughter is perfectly fine. Quite the fighter, that one." She approached the bed, helping me to sit up slightly before offering a cup of water. "I'm Alara, the pack healer, and you're very lucky to be alive, young lady." I drank greedily, the cool water like heaven on my parched throat. "Where is she?" I asked as soon as I could speak again. "Where's my daughter?" "The Alpha has her," Alara said, taking the empty cup. "He hasn't let her out of his sight since she was born." Fear jolted through me. What does he want with her? The old woman's expression softened. "Nothing sinister, I assure you. Quite the opposite, in fact." She settled on the edge of the bed. "What's your name, child?" "Elena," I answered automatically, my mind still racing with questions and fear. "Well, Elena, I don't know what Silver Creek told you about your baby, but they were either fools or liars." She shook her head in disgust. "Your daughter is rare, precious beyond measure to our kind." Before she could explain further, the door to the room opened, and Dominic entered. In the proper light, he was even more imposing than he had been in the forest. tall and powerfully built, with that same intense amber gaze. He'd dressed since our encounter in the snow, now wearing dark jeans and a simple black Henley that did little to disguise his muscular frame. In his arms, he cradled a small bundle wrapped in a soft white blanket. My heart stopped, then raced. Is that... Dominic approached the bed, his expression unreadable, but when he looked down at the bundle in his arms, something in his face softened, transforming his harsh features into something almost gentle. "Your daughter," he said, carefully transferring the tiny bundle into my waiting arms. "She's perfect." I pulled back the edge of the blanket with trembling fingers, and for the first time, I beheld my child, tiny, perfect features. A dusting of pale blonde hair, so like my own, and when she opened her eyes, I gasped. They were amber, just like Dominic's, with that same unearthly glow. "What does it mean?" I whispered, unable to look away from my daughter's gaze. It seemed impossible that a newborn could focus so intently, yet she was staring directly into my eyes with an awareness that sent chills down my spine. "It means," Dominic said quietly, "that Silver Creek has made a catastrophic mistake, one they'll soon regret." He sat on the edge of the bed, his weight causing the mattress to dip slightly. "Your daughter is what we call a Luna Wolf, born only once in many generations, with the power to strengthen any pack she belongs to. She's literally worth her weight in gold to werewolves." I pulled my daughter closer protectively. "And that's why you saved us? Because she's valuable?" Something dangerous flashed in Dominic's eyes. "I saved you because leaving a pregnant woman to die in the snow is an abomination. The fact that your child is a Luna Wolf only makes Silver Creek's crime against you that much worse." The baby made a small sound, turning her face toward my chest. Instinctively, I shifted to feed her, then hesitated, suddenly aware of Dominic's presence. "I'll leave you to your privacy," he said, rising. "Ilara will help you with anything you need." He paused at the door. "When you're stronger, we'll talk about what happens next. Until then, know that you're both safe here. I've posted guards outside. No one from Silver Creek will touch either of you again." With that, he was gone, leaving me with my daughter and 1,000 questions burning in my mind. Ilara helped me position the baby to nurse, and as my daughter latched on hungrily, I felt a surge of love so powerful it brought tears to my eyes. "What did he mean? What happens next?" I asked Ilara, unable to take my eyes off my nursing child. The old healer sighed. "That's for the Alpha to discuss with you. But I can tell you this, a Luna Wolf needs a pack. She cannot thrive without one." She reached out to gently stroke the baby's soft head. "And from what I've seen, our Alpha is already quite taken with both of you." I thought of the way Dominic had looked at my daughter, the protectiveness in his stance, the gentleness in his hands as he'd transferred her to my arms, so different from Grayson's cold rejection. Outside, a wolf howled, the sound echoing across the mountain. Another joined in, then another, until a chorus of voices filled the night. A declaration and a warning rolled into one. The message was clear even to my human ears. The Blackridge Pack had something to protect now, and they would defend it with their lives. I looked down at my daughter, so tiny, yet so powerful, and felt my grandmother's locket against my skin, her reminder of true strength. Whatever came next, we would face it together. Days passed in a blur of sleep, feeding and healing. My body recovered with surprising speed, which Ilara attributed to some concoction of herbs she kept brewing on the fire. The cabin we stayed in, Dominic's own home, I learned, was spacious and warm, built from massive timber and stone, harvested from the surrounding mountains. My daughter and I had been given the master bedroom while the Alpha himself apparently slept elsewhere. I named her Luna. It seemed fitting, given what Dominic had told me about her nature, and I'd always loved the moon. When I told Ilara the name I'd chosen, she had smiled knowingly. "The Alpha will approve," she'd said cryptically. I hadn't seen much of Dominic since that first night. He would come to check on us briefly, his visits always coinciding with times when Luna was asleep. He would stand in the doorway, those amber eyes taking in every detail before asking if we needed anything. Then he would be gone again, leaving behind a lingering scent of pine and something wild that I was beginning to recognize as uniquely his. On the 5th day, I finally felt strong enough to leave the bedroom. Wrapped in a borrowed robe that smelled faintly of lavender, I carried Luna down a wide hallway, lined with ancient-looking tapestries depicting wolves running beneath starlit skies. The main living area was a great room with soaring ceilings, dominated by a stone fireplace large enough to stand in. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating comfortable furniture arranged in conversational groupings rather than focused on modern entertainment. It felt like stepping back in time, yet there were touches of the present as well. Books on shelves that ranged from leather-bound classics to modern paperbacks, a laptop closed on a desk in the corner, a sound system nestled discreetly among the rustic decor. "You should be resting," came Dominic's deep voice from behind me. I turned to find him watching me from the entrance to what appeared to be a kitchen, his massive frame filling the doorway. He wore dark jeans and a simple gray t-shirt that strained across his broad shoulders. His black hair, I noticed now, had a slight wave to it when not damp with melted snow. "I needed to move," I said, adjusting Luna in my arms, "and to thank you properly for saving our lives." Something flickered across his face. Discomfort, perhaps, at being thanked. "You would have done the same for any innocent," he said dismissively. "Would I?" I moved to sit on one of the couches, suddenly aware of how weak my legs still were. I'd like to think so, but not everyone would, clearly. Dominic's expression darkened. He crossed to a chair opposite me and sat, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Tell me about Silver Creek," he said. It wasn't a request. I looked down at Luna, peacefully sleeping in my arms, her tiny lips slightly parted. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How you came to be there. How a human became mate to a wolf alpha. What happened when you went into labor." The memories washed over me, painful and sharp. "I was traveling through Montana after my grandmother died," I began softly. "I had no family left, no real destination, just driving, trying to figure out what to do with my life. My car broke down on a back road near the mountains, and that's when Grayson found me." Luna stirred in her sleep, her tiny fingers flexing against the blanket I'd wrapped her in. I continued, my voice growing steadier as I settled into the story. "He was charming, handsome, offered to help with my car, then invited me to stay at his cabin while waiting for parts." I gave a bitter laugh. There never were any parts, of course. By the time I realized my car had been deliberately disabled, I was already falling for him. And then he showed me what he truly was. Dominic's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, waiting for me to continue. I should have been terrified when he transformed in front of me, but I wasn't. I was fascinated. He said that was how he knew I was special, that a normal human would have run screaming. I shook my head at my own naivety. He said I was his mate, that he'd known it from the moment he scented me on that road. The pack wasn't happy. They'd never had a human among them before, but no one dared challenge him. "Until you got pregnant," Dominic supplied, his voice low. I nodded. Everything changed then. The pack doctor, Marion, started watching me constantly, running tests, drawing blood. I thought she was just being thorough because of the unusual circumstances. My voice caught. But she was looking for evidence, a reason to get rid of me, and when Luna's unusual readings showed up in the tests, she found it. Luna began to fuss, perhaps sensing my distress. I rocked her gently until she settled. Marion told Grayson that the baby couldn't be his, that it showed anomalies that weren't consistent with his bloodline. I met Dominic's intense gaze. "But there was never anyone else, I swear it." "I believe you," he said simply. "Marion either didn't know what she was seeing, or she deliberately misled your mate. Either way, the result was the same. Banishment." The word tasted like ash on my tongue. Grayson didn't even argue, just ordered me gone within the hour, pregnant or not. His beta, Vincent, escorted me to the edge of their territory and left me there. I walked as far as I could before the contractions became too strong. Dominic stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His body was rigid with tension, and I could see his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. "What Grayson did violates every law we have," he said, his voice a low growl. Even rivals and enemies are granted safe passage when carrying young, to banish his own mate, his own child. He trailed off, seemingly unable to find words adequate for such betrayal. What would you have done? I asked quietly. If it had been your mate, your child? He turned to look at me, his amber eyes glowing with an inner fire. I would die before abandoning my mate or child. I would kill anyone who suggested it. The conviction in his voice was absolute. Our laws exist for a reason, Elena. Without them, we are no better than the mindless beasts humans believe us to be. Luna began to cry in earnest now, her tiny face scrunching with displeasure. I shifted her to my shoulder, patting her back gently. She's hungry, Dominic said, surprising me with his insight. How can you tell? A small smile, the first I'd seen from him, briefly softened his features. Her scent changes. All cubs have a specific scent when they're hungry. He gestured toward a doorway. There's a small study through there if you want privacy. I nodded gratefully and carried Luna into the indicated room. A cozy space lined with bookshelves and featuring a comfortable leather chair near another fireplace. I settled in to feed her, my mind processing everything Dominic had said. When Luna had finished nursing and drifted back to sleep, I returned to the main room to find Alara had joined Dominic. They fell silent as I entered, exchanging a look that suggested I had interrupted an important discussion. Feeling stronger? Alara asked, her kind eyes assessing me. Much, I confirmed, resuming my seat on the couch. Strong enough to discuss what happens next. Dominic nodded, his expression serious. Silver Creek will come looking for you. For Luna. Once they realize what she truly is, Grayson will want her back. Fear clutched at my heart. Can they take her? No, Dominic said firmly. You're under my protection now, both of you. What exactly does that mean? I asked. Dominic and Alara exchanged another look before he answered. It means you're part of Black Ridge Pack, for as long as you choose to be. You'll have a home here, safety, community. Luna will grow up among wolves who understand and value her gifts. And what do you get in return? I asked. Unable to believe such generosity came without a price. A Luna wolf strengthens the entire pack, Alara explained. Her presence alone will make our wolves stronger, our bonds tighter. She'll grow into powers that haven't been seen in generations. That's not why I'm offering, Dominic said sharply, giving Alara a warning look. He turned back to me. I'm offering because it's the right thing to do. Because you deserve safety, and Luna deserves to know her heritage. I studied him, trying to see beyond the intimidating exterior to the man beneath. And if I want to leave, to take Luna somewhere else? His jaw tightened, but his response was measured. Then I would provide you with the means to start a new life wherever you chose. But I would strongly advise against it. Luna needs to be among our kind to truly thrive. And... He hesitated, something vulnerable briefly crossing his face. I believe you both belong here. A knock at the door interrupted whatever I might have said in response. Dominic moved with that uncanny speed I was beginning to associate with alpha wolves, positioning himself between me and the entrance. Enter, he called, his posture alert. A tall, lean man with russet hair stepped inside, his expression urgent. Alpha, he said, inclining his head respectfully to Dominic, before acknowledging me with a curious glance. The Border Patrol has picked up Silver Creek scents along the eastern ridge. At least 3 wolves, circling but not crossing over. Dominic's entire demeanor changed in an instant, the calm conversationalist replaced by a predator preparing for confrontation. Gather the sentinels, Ryan. Double the patrols. No one crosses our borders without my direct permission. The man, Ryan, nodded and withdrew without another word. They've found us, I whispered, clutching Luna closer. They've suspected, Dominic corrected. But they haven't dared cross into our territory yet. They're testing, looking for weaknesses. His eyes met mine. I won't let them find any. Alara rose, her expression concerned. I should prepare in case there's trouble. She squeezed my shoulder reassuringly as she passed. Don't worry, child. Our pack is strong. Our alpha stronger. Silver Creek wouldn't dare challenge us directly. When she had gone, Dominic came to kneel before me, bringing his face level with mine. This close, I could see flecks of gold in his amber eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his skin. I need to join the patrols, he said quietly. Will you be all right here with Alara?" I nodded, though fear still coiled in my stomach. "What will you do if you find them? Warn them. Remind them that you and Luna are under Blackridge protection now." His gaze dropped to my daughter, sleeping peacefully in my arms. "They'd be fools to provoke us further." "And Grayson?" Dominic's expression hardened. "If he sets foot on Blackridge land, he answers to me." The threat in those simple words was unmistakable. He rose to his full height, towering over me once more. "Lock the doors after I leave. Don't open them for anyone but pack members you've already met." He hesitated, then added, "I'll return by nightfall." As he turned to go, I found myself calling after him, "Dominic?" He paused at the door, looking back. "Thank you for everything." For a moment, something almost vulnerable crossed his face. Then he nodded once and was gone, the door closing firmly behind him. I sat there holding Luna, listening to the sudden silence of the cabin, broken only by my daughter's soft breathing and the occasional pop from the fireplace. Outside, I heard a distant howl. Dominic, I somehow knew, followed by answering calls from all directions. The Blackridge pack was gathering, preparing to defend their borders. And us. I touched my grandmother's locket, drawing strength from the familiar weight of it against my skin. "We're going to be okay," I whispered to Luna, willing myself to believe it. "We're going to be okay." Night fell with excruciating slowness. I paced the cabin with Luna in my arms, watching shadows lengthen across the wooden floors as the sun descended behind the mountains. Alara had returned briefly to check on us, bringing food and reassurances before departing again to prepare healing supplies. Just in case. Those 2 words had done nothing to calm my nerves. From the large windows in the main room, I could see other cabins nestled among the trees, lights glowing warmly in the gathering darkness. The Blackridge settlement was larger than I'd initially realized. A proper community rather than just a scattered collection of dwellings. In the fading light, I caught glimpses of movement, people hurrying between buildings, carrying weapons or supplies, all with the same sense of purpose. Preparing for a potential confrontation. Because of us. I had just settled Luna in a makeshift cradle, a dresser drawer padded with soft blankets, when a sound outside made me freeze. Not the distinctive howl of a wolf, but something more ominous. Silence. The usual forest noises had suddenly ceased, as if every creature were holding its breath. Then came a sharp crack, a branch breaking under a heavy weight, followed by a low growl just outside the cabin. My heart thundered in my chest as I scooped Luna back into my arms and retreated to the farthest corner of the room. I had no weapons, no means to defend us if someone, or something, broke in. The small weight of my grandmother's locket pressed against my collarbone, a reminder of inner strength that felt woefully inadequate against physical threats. A shadow passed by the window, too large to be human, moving with predatory grace. "Dominic?" I called out, my voice shaking. "Alara?" No answer came. Instead, there was a scratching at the door, claws against wood, and a low whine. Not aggressive, but imploring. I stood frozen. Luna clutched to my chest, her tiny body mercifully still asleep despite my racing heart. The scratching came again, followed by a soft thud as if something heavy had collapsed against the door. Making a split-second decision, I carefully laid Luna back in her makeshift cradle and approached the door. Dominic had told me not to open it for anyone I hadn't met, but something told me that whatever waited outside needed help. "Who's there?" I called, one hand on the heavy wooden bar that secured the door. Another whine, weaker this time. Steeling myself, I lifted the bar and opened the door just enough to peer out. A massive black wolf lay on the porch, blood matting its fur along one flank. Amber eyes, Dominic's eyes, looked up at me with pain and something like apology. "Dominic!" I gasped, flinging the door wider. "What happened? Are you—" Before I could finish, the wolf struggled to its feet and limped past me into the cabin, leaving a trail of blood droplets on the floor. Once inside, he collapsed again near the fireplace, sides heaving with labored breaths. I shut and barred the door, then rushed to kneel beside the injured Alpha. Up close, I could see the wound more clearly, a deep gash along his side that still seeped blood. Around the edges of the wound, the skin looked burnt, blistered, as if whatever had caused it had been more than just a physical attack. "Can you shift?" I asked, unsure if he could understand me in this form. "I don't know how to help you like this." The wolf's eyes met mine, then closed in what seemed like concentration. The air shimmered around his form. That same strange distortion I'd witnessed in the forest when we first met. And then Dominic lay before me in human form, naked and injured. The same wound marking his ribs. "Silver," he gasped, his voice rough with pain. "Blade coated with silver." I remembered enough of werewolf lore to understand the significance. Silver was toxic to his kind, preventing the supernatural healing that would normally close such a wound. "Tell me what to do," I said, forcing calm into my voice despite the panic rising within me. "How do I help you?" He grimaced, pushing himself to a sitting position with visible effort. "Ilara, her supplies, cabinet in the kitchen, wooden box with moon carving." I rushed to the kitchen, found the cabinet he'd described, and retrieved a heavy wooden box inlaid with a crescent moon design. Inside lay an assortment of pouches, vials, and implements. A healer's kit, but nothing I recognized from modern medicine. When I returned, Dominic had dragged himself to lean against the couch, his face ashen but composed. "The green pouch," he directed. "And water, clean cloth." I gathered what he asked for, along with a bowl of warm water from the kitchen. Kneeling beside him, I waited for further instructions, trying not to focus on his nakedness or the alarmingly large amount of blood he was losing. "The powder in the pouch," he said through gritted teeth, "mix with water, paste." I followed his instructions, creating a greenish paste that smelled strongly of herbs and something metallic. Dominic took it from me with shaking hands. "This will burn," he warned, then applied the paste directly to his wound. His reaction was immediate and frightening. His back arched. A strangled cry escaped his throat, and his eyes flashed from human amber to wolf gold and back again, as if he were fighting to maintain control over his form. I instinctively reached out to steady him, my hands gripping his shoulders. "Breathe," I urged, not knowing what else to offer. "Just breathe through it." Gradually, his body relaxed, the tension easing from his muscles as the paste did its work. The angry red around the wound began to fade, though the cut itself still looked raw and painful. "Better," he managed, his breathing steadying. "The silver is neutralized. I can heal now." "What happened?" I asked, reaching for a clean cloth to wipe away the blood from uninjured areas of his skin. "Was it Silver Creek?" He nodded grimly. "A hunting party crossed our borders. We intercepted them." His jaw tightened. "They came with silver weapons." "They weren't just scouting. They came prepared to kill." Fear clutched at my heart. "Grayson?" "No. His beta Vincent led them. The one who escorted you to the border." Dominic's eyes darkened. "He won't be escorting anyone anywhere again." The implication was clear, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Vincent was dead. There had been a battle, and blood had been shed. Because of me and Luna. The others? Retreated, carrying their wounded. "My sentinels are tracking them to ensure they leave our territory." He shifted, wincing. "They won't return tonight, not after what happened to Vincent." A soft cry came from Luna's makeshift cradle, drawing both our attention. The sound seemed to galvanize Dominic, who pushed himself straighter despite his injury. "Check on her," he said. "I'm fine." I hesitated, reluctant to leave him in such a state, but Luna's cries grew more insistent. I retrieved my daughter, soothing her with gentle bounces as I returned to where Dominic sat. "She's just hungry," I said, noticing how his attention fixed on the baby, his expression softening as it always did when he looked at her. Dominic nodded, then seemed to suddenly remember his state of undress. "I should," he began, attempting to rise. "Don't," I said quickly. "You're injured. Just wait here." I carried Luna back to the bedroom, settling in the chair there to feed her, giving Dominic time to recover his dignity. When I returned with a now contented Luna, Dominic had managed to pull on a pair of sweatpants and was sitting on the couch, looking marginally better though still pale. The wound on his side was visibly healing. the edges knitting together before my eyes. Not as quickly as I imagined it normally would, but faster than any human recovery. "They'll come back, won't they?" I asked, sitting beside him with Luna cradled against my shoulder. "Silver Creek, Grayson." Dominic's expression was grim but determined. "Yes." Vincent was Grayson's right hand. His death won't go unanswered. He reached out hesitantly, his fingers hovering near Luna's tiny head, before withdrawing. "But we'll be ready. The entire pack is on alert now." "This is my fault," I whispered, the weight of guilt settling heavy on my shoulders. "If we hadn't come here, no." Dominic's voice was sharp, brooking no argument. "This conflict between our packs has been brewing for years. Your arrival may have accelerated it. But it was inevitable." His expression softened slightly. "And I would make the same choice again, knowing the consequences." Luna made a small sound, turning her face against my neck. Dominic watched her with that same look of wonder I'd noticed before. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the baby. I carefully transferred Luna to his arms, noting how tiny she looked against his broad chest, how gently his scarred hands cradled her. For a fearsome alpha who had just killed a man and suffered a grievous wound, he handled her with remarkable tenderness. Luna opened her eyes, those uncanny amber orbs so like his own, and stared up at Dominic with what seemed like recognition. To my surprise, he began to speak to her in a language I didn't understand, something ancient and lyrical, with sounds that seemed to resonate in the air around us. "What is that?" I asked softly when he paused. "The old tongue," he replied, his eyes still on Luna. "The first language of werewolves, before we adopted human speech. Few remember it now." His lips curved in a slight smile as Luna gripped his finger with her tiny hand. "I'm telling her the story of the first Luna wolf, how she brought peace between warring packs and taught us to harness the moon's power. There was something so intimate about the moment, this powerful man sharing ancient secrets with my newborn daughter, that I felt like an intruder despite being her mother. I was human, an outsider to this world of wolves and moon magic, of pack bonds and ancient tongues." "She understands, doesn't she?" I asked, watching how Luna's eyes remained fixed on Dominic, how she seemed to listen intently despite being only days old. He nodded. "Not the words, perhaps, but the meaning. Luna wolves have a connection to our history, our collective memory. It's part of what makes them special. And rare," I added, remembering what I'd been told. "Very rare." Dominic carefully handed Luna back to me, his fingers brushing mine in the transfer. "Which is why Grayson will come for her, once he understands what he threw away." "What will we do?" I asked, the "we" slipping out naturally. If Dominic noticed my choice of words, he gave no indication. "We prepare. We strengthen our defenses, and we make it clear that you and Luna are Blackridge now." He met my eyes directly. "If you want to be." The question hung in the air between us, not just about safety or protection, but about belonging, about choice. Before I could answer, a howl sounded outside, close and urgent. Dominic was on his feet instantly, his wound seemingly forgotten. "Stay here," he commanded, moving to the door. "That's Ryan. The patrol must have found something." He disappeared into the night before I could protest. Leaving me alone with Luna and a growing sense of dread, I paced the cabin, peering out windows into darkness that revealed nothing but shadows and occasional flickers of movement too swift to identify. Minutes stretched into an hour, then 2. Luna fell asleep in my arms, but I remained alert, straining to hear any sound that might indicate what was happening beyond these walls. Finally, the door opened, and Dominic returned, fully dressed now in jeans and a dark Henley, his expression grave. "What is it?" I asked, reading the tension in his body. "What's happened?" "Silver Creek has sent a formal message," he said, crossing to stand before me. "Grayson invokes pack law. He claims his mate and child have been stolen and demands your return." My blood ran cold, but he banished me. He rejected Luna. He denies it. Claims you fled during a pack dispute, that Vincent was searching for you to bring you home safely. Dominic's hands clenched at his sides. His word against yours, and in the eyes of other packs, his word carries more weight, I finished, understanding the politics at play, because I'm human. Dominic nodded grimly. There's more. He's called for a council of alphas, 3 days from now, on neutral ground. All regional packs will send representatives to hear both sides and render judgment. The implications were clear. This was no longer just a dispute between two packs. It had escalated to involve their entire society, their laws, and governance. And if the council rules in his favor? I asked, already dreading the answer. Dominic's eyes met mine, burning with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. That won't happen, he said with absolute conviction. I won't let it happen. Despite everything, the danger, the uncertainty, the politics of a world I barely understood, I found myself believing him, trusting him, this man I'd known for less than a week, with not just my life, but Luna's future. What do we do now? I asked. Now, he said, his voice softening as he looked at Luna sleeping peacefully in my arms. We prepare to show the council exactly what Grayson threw away, and why you both belong with Blackridge. The next 3 days passed in a flurry of preparation. The entire Blackridge pack seemed to mobilize around the upcoming council meeting, with a constant stream of wolves coming and going from Dominic's cabin. I met his inner circle, Ryan, his beta, a lean tactical thinker with eyes that missed nothing, Nora, his head sentinel, a fierce woman with close-cropped hair and more visible scars than even Dominic, and Marcus, his advisor, an older wolf with silver temples and a diplomat's measured speech. Each regarded Luna with a reverence that still unsettled me, and me with a cautious respect that I hadn't expected. No one questioned my presence or Dominic's decision to protect us. If anything, they seemed to approve. A true alpha protects the vulnerable, Ilara explained when I mentioned this to her, as she changed the dressing on Dominic's wound. Especially Cubs. The pack sees his actions as proof of his strength, not weakness. Dominic himself was a constant presence, despite the demands on his time. His wound healed rapidly once the silver was neutralized, and by the second day, only a pink scar remained where the gash had been. He spent hours in meetings with his pack leaders, but always found time to check on Luna and me, to explain pack customs or council protocols, to simply sit in companionable silence while I nursed Luna before the fire. There was something comforting about his presence, a steadiness that helped calm my own fears. When he spoke of facing Grayson at the council, his confidence never wavered. On the morning of the 3rd day, I awoke to find a package at the foot of my bed, a dress of deep blue fabric that shimmered like water in the early light, along with soft leather boots and a silver clasp for my hair. Ilara arrived as I was examining it, Luna cradled in one arm. The alpha had it brought from the nearest town, she explained. For the council. You'll need to look the part. The part of what? I asked, running my fingers over the beautiful material. His protected, she said simply. Not a captive, not a victim, but someone valued by the Blackridge Alpha. I dressed carefully, my fingers trembling slightly as I fastened the silver clasp in my hair. The dress fit perfectly, the color bringing out the blue in my eyes and complementing my pale blonde hair. When I emerged from the bedroom with Luna wrapped in a new soft white blanket, I found Dominic waiting in the great room. He wore black from head to toe, jeans, button-down shirt, leather jacket, the monochrome attire emphasizing his imposing physique and highlighting his unusual amber eyes. Those eyes widened slightly as they took me in, a flash of something primal crossing his face before he masked it. You look, he began, then seemed to reconsider his words. The dress suits you. Thank you, I said, oddly disappointed by the formality in his tone. For the dress. For everything. He nodded, his expression softening as he looked at Luna in my arms, dressed in a tiny white gown that Ilara had crafted. Are you ready for this? It won't be easy, facing Grayson again. The mere mention of my former mate sent a chill through me, but I lifted my chin. I'm ready. For Luna's sake. Something like approval flickered in his eyes. The council will meet at sunset at Guardian Rock. It's neutral territory, a sacred place where pack laws were first established. We leave in an hour. True to his word, an hour later, I found myself in a caravan of vehicles driving deep into the mountains. I rode with Dominic in a black SUV, with Ryan driving, and Nora in the passenger seat, both alert and watchful. 3 other vehicles flanked us, filled with black ridge wolves, protection and show of strength in equal measure. The other alphas? I asked as we wound up a narrow mountain road, Luna sleeping in a carrier between Dominic and me. What are they like? Dominic's gaze remained on the passing landscape, but he answered readily enough. There are 5 major packs in this region. Silver Creek under Grayson to the north. Black Ridge, us, to the west. River Valley to the south, led by Alpha Serena, one of the few female alphas and a fair judge. Eastern Ridge under Alpha Daniel, older, traditional, but honorable. And Stonehaven, the smallest pack, led by Alpha Thomas, who tends to follow where the strongest wind blows. And they'll all be there? To judge our case? Yes, along with their seconds and advisors. He finally turned to look at me. You'll be the only human present. It's unusual. Will that work against us? A slight smile curved his lips. On the contrary, many will be curious to see the human woman who has caused such discord between 2 powerful alphas. His expression sobered. But it's Luna they'll truly be watching. A Luna wolf hasn't been born in this region for 3 generations. Her existence changes the balance of power. Is that why Grayson wants her back? For power? Dominic's eyes darkened. Yes. Not because he values her, or you, but because of what she represents. Advantage. Status. His hands clenched on his thighs. He doesn't deserve either of you. The possessive edge in his voice should have alarmed me, but instead, I found it reassuring. Whatever his reasons, whatever politics were at play, Dominic was committed to protecting us. The road eventually ended at the base of a towering rock formation, a natural stone spire that jutted dramatically against the darkening sky. Vehicles were already parked in a clearing nearby, representing the other packs, I presumed. As our caravan pulled to a stop, I felt my heart begin to race. Stay close to me, Dominic said, as Ryan opened his door. Say nothing unless directly questioned by an alpha. Let me speak for you when possible. I'm not a child, I protested, unfastening Luna's carrier. No, he agreed, his eyes intense. But you're entering a wolf's den, Elena. There are protocols, hierarchies. One wrong word could undermine everything. I wanted to argue further, but recognized the wisdom in his caution. This was his world, not mine. I had to trust him to navigate it. As we emerged from the vehicle, flanked by Ryan, Nora, and Marcus, I couldn't help but scan the gathered wolves for a familiar face. And then I saw him, Grayson, standing with his remaining advisors near the base of the rock. He was as handsome as I remembered, with his silver blonde hair and sculpted features. But his blue eyes held none of the warmth I'd once imagined I saw there. Those eyes found me, narrowed, then shifted to the bundle in my arms. Dominic must have sensed my tension because his hand came to rest at the small of my back, warm and steadying. Remember, he said softly, you're under my protection now. He can't touch you. We approached the gathering, the Black Ridge wolves forming a loose semicircle behind us. The other alphas and their entourages stood in similar formations, creating a rough circle at the base of Guardian Rock. At the center, a fire pit had been prepared, but not yet lit. I studied the other alphas, trying to match them to Dominic's descriptions. The only woman must be Serena of River Valley, tall and regal with copper skin and dark eyes that missed nothing. The oldest was clearly Daniel of Eastern Ridge, his salt and pepper beard and weathered face speaking of decades of leadership. The youngest seemed to be Thomas of Stonehaven, barely older than me, with an uncertain set to his shoulders that contrasted with the confidence the other alphas exuded. And then there was Grayson, standing opposite us across the unlit fire pit, his cold gaze never leaving mine. The sun sets, Daniel announced, his deep voice carrying easily in the mountain air. The Council of Alphas convenes. Let the sacred fire be lit. Marcus stepped forward with representatives from each pack, each carrying a torch. Together they lit the fire pit, flames leaping high into the darkening sky. We gathered to resolve a dispute between Alpha Grayson of Silver Creek and Alpha Dominic of Blackridge, Daniel continued, clearly serving as the council's voice. Concerning the human female Elena and her newborn child, he fixed his gaze on me for the first time. Step forward, Elena. Dominic's hand tightened briefly at my back before falling away, allowing me to move to the edge of the fire pit. Luna stirred in my arms, her tiny face turning toward the warmth of the flames. You stand at the center of a serious accusation, Daniel said, his tone neutral. Alpha Grayson claims you are his bonded mate, that you fled Silver Creek territory while carrying his child, and that Alpha Dominic has unlawfully claimed you and your offspring. What say you to these charges? I took a deep breath, remembering Dominic's warning about protocols, but determined to speak my truth. I was Grayson's mate, I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected, until he banished me from Silver Creek territory while I was in labor, claiming the child wasn't his. I did not flee. I was escorted to the border by his beta, Vincent, and left to give birth alone in a snowstorm. Murmurs rippled through the gathered wolves at this, and I saw Serena's eyes narrow with displeasure. You lie. Grayson finally spoke, his voice sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. There was a pack dispute. You were upset and left despite my concerns for your safety. Vincent was searching for you when he was killed by Blackridge wolves. Convenient, Dominic said coldly, that the one witness who could corroborate Elena's story is dead. By your hand, Grayson countered, perhaps to silence the truth. Before Dominic could respond, Luna began to fuss, her tiny face scrunching with displeasure. As if on cue, her eyes opened. Those distinctive amber eyes that glowed in the firelight. A collective gasp went up from the gathered wolves. A Luna wolf, Thomas breathed, speaking for the first time. The rumors are true. Serena stepped closer, her dark eyes intent on my daughter. May I? She asked, holding out her arms. I hesitated, looking to Dominic, who gave a slight nod. Carefully, I transferred Luna to Serena's waiting arms, watching anxiously as the female alpha studied my child. Those eyes, Serena said, wonder in her voice. I've seen paintings, read accounts, but never. She looked up, first at Grayson, then at Dominic. This changes matters considerably. It changes nothing, Grayson insisted. The child is mine, by right and by blood. Is she? Daniel asked, his weathered face thoughtful. A Luna wolf born to a Silver Creek alpha would be unprecedented. No Luna wolf has ever been born outside the bloodlines most strongly connected to the old magic. All eyes turned to Dominic, whose ancestry I realized I knew nothing about. My great-grandmother was a Luna wolf, he said quietly. The last born in this region, 3 generations ago. Another ripple of reaction spread through the gathering. I looked at Grayson and saw fury tightening his handsome features. You suggest the child isn't mine? He demanded. That my mate betrayed me with you? I suggest, Dominic replied evenly, that you never understood what you had. That you threw away your mate and child in ignorance and cruelty, and now seek to reclaim them only for the power they represent. Serena carefully handed Luna back to me, her expression thoughtful. The child's parentage can be determined easily enough. A blood ritual would reveal the truth. I am willing, Dominic said immediately. As am I, Grayson added, though less enthusiastically. Daniel nodded gravely. Let it be done. Elara of Blackridge and Marion of Silver Creek will perform the ritual together, to ensure fairness. My heart sank at the mention of Marion. The very doctor who had claimed Luna wasn't Grayson's in the first place. Would she manipulate the results again? But then Elara stepped forward from behind us, her head held high, and I felt a surge of hope. She wouldn't allow any deception. Prepare the circle, Daniel instructed, and wolves from various packs began to create a ritual space near the fire, laying out strange implements and herbs I didn't recognize. Dominic moved to my side as the preparations continued. Are you all right with this? He asked quietly. The ritual will reveal Luna's true parentage beyond any doubt. I have nothing to hide, I said. Luna is Grayson's daughter. I never betrayed him. Something flickered across Dominic's face. Disappointment, perhaps. though it was gone too quickly to identify. "I know," he said, "but the result may not be what you expect." Before I could question him further, Ilara approached. "It's time," she said gently, reaching for Luna. "The child must be at the center of the circle. You'll remain just outside it, with both alphas." With reluctance, I surrendered my daughter to Ilara's capable hands, then followed her to the ritual circle. Dominic and Grayson took positions on either side of me, the tension between them almost a physical force. Marion stepped forward with a silver knife, its blade gleaming in the firelight, and a shallow stone bowl. The other alphas gathered closer, forming an outer ring around the ritual space. "Blood reveals truth," Marion intoned, her voice carrying in the still night air. "Blood binds and blood severs. Through blood, the ancestors will speak." She approached Grayson first, taking his hand and making a quick slice across his palm. He didn't flinch as she held his bleeding hand over the stone bowl, allowing 3 drops to fall. Ilara approached Dominic with a similar knife and bowl, performing the same ritual. Again, 3 drops of blood, glistening black in the firelight. Then both women turned to Luna, who lay on a soft blanket at the center of the circle. My heart lurched with sudden fear. "They won't hurt her," Dominic murmured, sensing my distress. "Just a tiny prick on her heel, she'll barely notice." True to his word, when the women bent over my daughter, Luna made only the smallest sound of protest. Both Marion and Ilara collected a single drop of her blood in their respective bowls, then mixed it with the alpha blood they'd gathered. The gathered wolves began a low, rhythmic chanting as the 2 healers worked. Marion added herbs and powders to her mixture, while Ilara whispered words in that ancient language I'd heard Dominic use with Luna. The air around the circle seemed to thicken, charged with expectation and something older, wilder, a magic I could sense even with my human perceptions. The fire flared suddenly higher, sparks swirling upward into the night sky. And then, with startling simultaneity, both bowls began to glow, Marion's a cold blue light, Ilara's a warm gold. The chanting stopped, and silence fell over the gathering as everyone watched the culmination of the ritual. Ilara and Marion exchanged a look, then stepped back from their respective bowls. Daniel moved forward to examine both, his expression grave. "The blood speaks," he announced. "The truth is revealed." I held my breath, my heart pounding so loudly I was certain everyone could hear it. Daniel turned to face the gathered wolves, his voice carrying across the clearing. "The child shares blood with both alphas, but the primary bond, the paternal bond, is with Alpha Dominic of Blackridge." The clearing erupted in shocked murmurs. I stood frozen, unable to process what I'd just heard. Luna was Dominic's daughter? How was that possible? I had never been with Dominic before he found me in the snow, unless... My mind raced back to the early days with Grayson, to a pack celebration where I'd drunk too much of a strange herbal wine. There had been a gap in my memory the next morning. Hours I couldn't account for. Grayson had assured me nothing had happened, that I'd simply fallen asleep by the fire. Had that been a lie? Had I somehow encountered Dominic that night? I turned to him, questions burning on my tongue, but the expression on his face stopped me. There was no triumph there, no vindication, only a complex mixture of awe, tenderness, and something that looked remarkably like guilt. "This is absurd," Grayson snarled, breaking the tense silence. "Some trick of Blackridge magic. I demand another test." "The ritual cannot lie," Daniel said firmly. "The blood has spoken. The child is Alpha Dominic's by blood right." Grayson's face contorted with rage. He turned on me, blue eyes blazing. "You whore," he spat. "You betrayed me with my greatest rival." Before I could defend myself, Dominic was between us, a low growl emanating from deep in his chest. "Watch your words," he warned, his voice barely human. "You speak to the mother of my child." "A child you conceived while she was mated to me," Grayson shouted. "You have no right." "Enough!" Serena's authoritative voice cut through the argument. "This is a sacred council. We will maintain order." She turned to me, her dark eyes searching. "Elena, were you aware that Alpha Dominic was the father of your child?" "No," I said truthfully, my voice small in the charged atmosphere. I believed Luna was Grayson's. I've never been intimate with Dominic. More murmurs rippled through the gathering. Serena's eyebrows rose in surprise. Yet, the blood ritual cannot lie, she said. How do you explain this? I shook my head helplessly. I don't know. I can't explain it. I can. Alara stepped forward, Luna now cradled in her arms. If the council will permit me to speak, Daniel nodded gravely. The pack healer may offer insight. Alara approached the center of the circle, her wise eyes moving between Dominic and me. There is an ancient phenomenon, rare but documented in our histories. When a true Luna wolf is conceived, sometimes the child chooses its own bloodline, reaching through time and space to draw from the strongest, most compatible alpha essence. She looked down at Luna, who gazed back with those uncanny amber eyes. This child recognized her true alpha father, even from within the womb. She reshaped her own blood to match his, rejecting the weaker line. Impossible, Marion snapped. No such magic exists. It does, Daniel said quietly. I have seen the ancient texts that speak of it. When a Luna wolf is born, ordinary rules do not apply. He turned to Grayson. This is why your pack doctor detected anomalies in the child. She was becoming something else, someone else's daughter, even as she grew within Elena's womb. Grayson's face had gone pale, his earlier rage replaced by a dawning horror. You're saying she chose Dominic over me? From within the womb? The old magic chose, Alara corrected. The blood of the strongest alpha called to her, and she answered. Her gaze softened as she looked at me. Elena was merely the vessel for a miracle she couldn't possibly understand. I looked at Dominic, finding his amber eyes already on me, filled with a warmth that made my heart race. Had some part of me chosen this too, without knowing? Had my body, my blood, recognized something in him that I was only beginning to see? The council has heard all evidence, Daniel announced. It is time to render judgment. By blood right, the child Luna belongs to Alpha Dominic of Blackridge. As for Elena, he paused, his weathered face thoughtful. Her mate bond with Alpha Grayson was broken when he banished her, regardless of his current claims. She is free to choose her own path forward. And if she chooses to remain with her child? Dominic asked, his voice carefully neutral despite the intensity in his eyes. Then she would remain under Blackridge protection, Daniel confirmed, as is her right as mother of a pack member. Grayson stepped forward, desperation clear on his handsome face. Elena, he pleaded, all previous anger gone. Come home. We can start again. I was wrong to doubt you, wrong to send you away. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw him clearly perhaps for the first time. The charming facade had cracked, revealing the weakness beneath. He didn't want me. He wanted what I represented, status, advantage, the chance to claim some connection to the miracle that was Luna. No, I said simply. You made your choice, Grayson. You left me to die in the snow with our child. I corrected myself. With a child you believed was ours. I could never trust you again. His face hardened, the brief vulnerability vanishing. You'll regret this, he warned. Both of you. His gaze shifted to Dominic. This isn't over. It is for now. Serena interjected firmly. The council has spoken. Blood right has been established. Any further action against Elena or the child will be considered an act of war against all packs represented here. She looked pointedly at Grayson. Is that understood? He held her gaze for a moment, then gave a curt nod before turning abruptly and stalking away, his remaining advisors hurrying to follow. As the council began to disperse, Alara brought Luna back to me. I took my daughter gratefully, holding her close as I tried to process everything that had happened. Are you all right? Dominic asked quietly, moving to stand beside me. I don't know, I admitted. It's a lot to take in. I looked down at Luna, seeing Dominic's amber eyes looking back at me from her tiny face. How had I not recognized the similarity before? She really is yours, ours, he corrected gently. If that's what you want. I studied him in the fading firelight. This man who had saved us, protected us, claimed us as his own even before knowing Luna was truly his blood. "Why did you really save us that night in the forest?" I asked. "The truth." Dominic was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving between Luna and me. "I felt something," he finally said. "The moment I caught your scent, a pull I couldn't explain. When I saw you, it was like recognizing someone I'd been waiting for my entire life." His voice dropped lower. "When I learned you were pregnant, that feeling only intensified. Now I understand why. The old magic," I murmured, remembering Alara's words. "Perhaps." He hesitated, then reached out to touch my cheek, his fingers warm against my skin. "Or perhaps something simpler, something human and wolf alike understand." "And what's that?" I asked, my heart beating faster at his touch. "That sometimes we find exactly who we're meant to find, exactly when we're meant to find them." His amber eyes held mine, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. "The choice is yours, Elena. You can stay with the pack as Luna's mother, with no expectations. Or?" I prompted when he hesitated. "Or you could stay as more than that. As mine." The last word came out as almost a growl, sending a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. "Not today, not tomorrow, but someday, when you're ready. If you're ever ready." I thought of my grandmother's locket, the forget-me-not inside that had reminded me of my own strength through the darkest moments. I touched it now, drawing courage from its familiar weight. "I think," I said slowly, "that someday might come sooner than you think." The smile that spread across his face transformed him, softening the harsh angles and illuminating those remarkable eyes. Behind us, a chorus of howls rose into the night sky, the Black Ridge pack celebrating the outcome of the council. As we walked back to the waiting vehicles, Luna sleeping peacefully in my arms, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. Grayson's threat still hung in the air, and I had much to learn about this new world I'd entered. But for the first time since I'd been banished into the snow, I wasn't just surviving, I was exactly where I belonged. 3 months later, under a full moon, Dominic and I stood before the entire Black Ridge pack. Luna, growing stronger and more alert each day, watched from Alara's arms as Dominic traced an ancient symbol on my palm with herb-infused oil. "Not a mate bond," he had explained when proposing this ceremony. "Something older, a soul bond, freely chosen." As we pressed our palms together, I felt it, that connection that had been growing between us since the night he found me in the snow. A bridge between his world and mine, between wolf and human, between past and future. Luna's delighted laughter rang out, echoed by the approving howls of our pack. Our family, our miracle,